Bakura versus Bonz. An occult deck versus a ghost deck. Well, not a very long duel by any means. It is an interesting one. After Bakura claps Bonz and takes all of his locator cards, he summons a group of demons to drag Bonz and his minions to actual, literal hell.
さあ、地獄に落ちる時間だぜ。
Essentially, straight up killing them. This is confirmed not only in the manga, because Bakura actually does kill them in the manga, but for the rest of the anime, these characters are never seen or heard from again. A pretty sinister fate for, while a scummy character, ultimately, he was a harmless guy. I mean, at the end of the day, what was he doing here? It was just spooking people in a graveyard, causing them to get so scared they dropped their duel discs and locator cards. Technically, yes, when Bakura didn't give up straight away, they did resort to violence. I can't remember where I read this. The reason why Bonz has a chip on his shoulder is because due to a glandular problem or something like that, this is why he actually looks like a zombie. And because of this, he's been bullied or mistreated for his entire life. So I can kind of understand why he's become the person he has. But did he need to be dragged to hell? Probably not. Because of this, I now have the resolve to fight this injustice and find out if Bonz actually did stand a ghost of a chance against Bakura. Or sadly, was he just in the wrong place at the wrong time and his fate was sealed from the moment the duel began? We won't know unless we jump into the duel. Before the duel begins, the fight begins and Yugioh goes first. He lunges at Bakura from behind, but Bakura counters by stepping to the side. With Yugioh off balance, Bakura reaches forward and unmasks him. Disorientated, Yugioh's next action is interrupted, and so Bakura activates his behind the back wrist lock technique, disabling Yugioh and winning the fight. However, with Yugioh's size and battle experience, keep in mind that he did win a fight against Joey in the earlier season, what he should have done is counter with whatever move this guy does in this video to escape. And by doing that, blah, 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 I'll stop now. I was just having a little bit of fun, sorry. The actual duel. The duel begins and Bakura goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of Headless Knight, the Shallow Grave, the Earl of Demise, and 3 mysterious cards. Now, these 3 cards and the next card that Bakura is going to draw on are never going to be seen or used for the rest of this duel. They are ultimately going to get discarded, so we never find out what they are. You could assume they are bricks in his hand, so he doesn't need them. So in this case, let's just say they are letters I, N, A, and L, or E, A, T, and H, because we're watching the Japanese version right now. So yeah, that seems pretty bricky for me, would make sense. Alternatively, they could be a bunch of monsters or spells and traps that could have helped him, but throughout the course of the duel, he won't need them. However, this could change if I figure out anything later, which we'll find out a bit later. But for the time being, let's just assume they are the Spirit Messages cards, because he is playing his occult deck, and he can't use them, so he's happy to just dump them in the grave. Bakura summons his Headless Knight to the field into attack. He sets his Shallow Grave spell face down, and ends his turn. Why set Shallow Grave face down? Well, this is Battle City. Normal spell cards that are set face down become quick play spells during the battle phase and your opponent's next turn. Worst case scenario, Bonz really pops off on the next turn, destroys his monster, then attacks directly. At least he can bring his monster back into defense and defend himself. Which does raise the point, why not set Headless Knight face down into defense? It has 1700 defense. Bonz would have had no way of getting rid of this monster and would have probably attacked into defense and done more damage to himself. Would have been the optimal play, but a little bit of a misplay from Bakura. It's Bonz's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of the Snake Hair, Armored Zombie, Crass Clown, Premature Burial, Polymerization, and Skull Invitation. Bonz starts by summoning his Snake Hair to the field into attack. With exactly 50 more attack points, he attacks and destroys Bakura's Headless Knight. Bakura takes the first damage of the duel. With no further plays, Bonz ends his turn. Now, straight away, we have a proper misplay here. Bonz has summoned his Snake Hair to attack and destroy. However, Snake Hair is a part of his fusion combo. It's a fusion material and he has polymerization in his hand. Ideally, it would be better to hold on to Snake Hair and instead summon Armored Zombie. It has the exact same attack as Snake Hair, and it's not a fusion material monster, so why take this risk? Later, he's gonna have to use Premature Burial to bring it back. What a waste of a card. So, had he done this, would it have changed the outcome of the duel? Yes, it would have. We'll talk about it later. It's Bakura's turn, and he draws a mysterious card that we have all agreed is Spirit Message H, okay? So he's got all of the pieces of Destiny Board in his hand that he doesn't need right now. Bakura activates his set, the Shallow Grave. Due to its effect, both players special summon a monster from their grave to their field into face-up defense. Bakura brings back his Headless Knight. Since Bonz has no monsters in his graveyard, he has nothing he is allowed to summon back to the field. It's worth mentioning, in the real world, this play would not be possible, as the real world Shallow Grave states that you have to have a valid target in both players' graveyards to use this effect. So Bakura wouldn't be allowed to use it in the real world, but this is the anime. Its anime effect has a big old can in its card text, so he is allowed to do this, even if the opponent doesn't have a target. With a monster on Bakura's side of the field, he tributes it to summon his Earl of Demise. He enters his battle phase and orders Earl of Demise to attack and destroy Bonz' Snake Hair. Bakura ends his turn. It's back to Bonz, and he draws Dragon Zombie. Strangely, he summons it to the field. Next, he plays Premature Burial. Now, at the cost of 800 life points, he can bring back one monster in his grave. He brings back Snake Hair. With both Snake Hair and Dragon Zombie, he is now able to activate Polymerization. He merges both of them together to make Great Mammoth of Goldfine. A fusion monster with no effect, but with 2200 attack, it's more than enough to get over Bakura's Earl of Demise. Or at least, that would have been the case, as unfortunately, due to Battle City rules, fusion summoned monsters can't attack the turn they are summoned. And so, planning to go on the offensive on the next turn, Bonz sets his Skull Invitation trap face down and ends his turn. As I pointed out at the start of this turn, Bonz didn't need to waste his normal summon with summoning Dragon Zombie on the field just to fuse. You don't have to do that. You can fuse with monsters in your hand. It is weird that he did this, because if he hadn't done it, he would still have his fusion monster on the field, but he'd still have a normal summon. He could use that normal summon to summon his Crass Clown into face-up defense. So, why would that help? Well, it puts Bakura in an awkward situation. With two monsters that are able to deal with his monster on the next turn, he has to get rid of one of them. If he doesn't get rid of Mammoth of Goldfine, he'll attack over his 2000 attack monster and destroy it. If he doesn't get rid of the Crass Clown, he can switch it into attack, bounce Earl of Demise back to Bakura's hand, and now he's emptied the field again. It's one of those situations where, knowing what happens on the next turn, he will only be able to boost his one monster's attack higher, and he won't be able to deal with two monsters. So if he would have got both out, would it have changed the outcome of the duel? Yes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well, when the moment is right. It's Bakura's turn, and he draws Spiritualistic Medium. Bonz, wasting absolutely no time, immediately activates his set trap, Skull Invitation. Due to its continuous effect, now, whenever a card or cards are sent to the grave, the owner of those cards takes 300 damage for each one sent. Bakura, absolutely fine with this, activates his Spiritualistic Medium spell. This lets him send his entire hand to the grave in order to increase the attack of one monster he controls by 500 for each sent. This effect lasts until the end of the turn. Bakura sends his entire hand to the grave. Since there were 4 cards in it, Skull Invitation deals 300 damage for each, whereas Earl of Demise gains 500 attack for each. Real quick, little bit of an error here. Bakura's life points dropped to 2,750, but they should have actually dropped to 2,450, meaning he should have took 1,500 damage, because the spell card also went to the graveyard. That's another card going to the grave. That should have been another 300 damage. Did it matter in the overall long run of the duel? No. Is it a little bit of an error though? Yes. Now, the 4,000 attack Earl of Demise attacks and destroys Great Mammoth of Goldfine. The effect of Skull Invitation activates since Goldfine went to the grave. With no further plays, as Bakura has nothing left in his hand, he ends his turn. As he does, Earl of Demise's attack returns to normal. Now here is where we actually get a cool out-of-duel moment that is quite rare for the series. To the best of my knowledge, we have never seen anybody try to escape a shadow duel when they think they're about to lose. They just try to fight it out, and that's all we ever get. Well, for the first time, we actually get to see what happens if someone tries to escape. As it turns out, you can't escape. The only way to get out is to win or lose. And so, it's Bonz' turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Nightmare Steel Cage. With no way of getting over the Earl of Demise, and hoping to buy himself more time to draw a card that can turn the duel around, he activates his Nightmare Steel Cage. Now, for the next 2 turns, neither player can declare an attack. Bonz sets a mysterious monster face down that is either Class Clown or Armored Zombie. Since Armored Zombie has 0 defense, I have to assume it was Class Clown. And with that, he ends his turn there. And here it is, the culmination of all the misplays that Bonz has made throughout this entire duel end here. This moment right here could have been very different if he was a better duelist. How? I hear you cry. Like so. Had Bonz played the Crass Clown in defense last turn, like I suggested, instead of wasting his normal summon, he could now switch that monster into attack. Due to its effect, it would bounce Earl of Demise back to Bakura's hand. He could then summon Armored Zombie and then attack directly with both of his monsters, dealing 2,850 damage. Since Bakura only has 2,750 left, that would mean Bonz would win the duel. And in this new alternate reality, Bonz is now the one to duel against Yugioh in the first round of the Battle City Finals. That's wacky, right? And it's kind of nice as well, because I guess he would have won Bakura's most valuable cards. He'd probably take the Destiny Boards cards off of him, and that kind of works for Bonz as well. That's kind of fun to think about. There's more, however. The cherry on top of the cake is that had he not wasted the premature burial earlier in the duel, like I suggested, he would still have it right now. And so he could activate it to bring back his fusion monster. Now, I'm not actually 100% sure if a previously fusion summoned monster brought back and special summoned to the field can attack the same turn it's brought to the field. Technically, the wording is fusion summoned monsters can't attack the turn they are summoned, so I guess maybe they can't. But I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, so you'll have to let me know in the comment section below if his fusion monster could attack on the same turn it's premature burialed. But regardless, it's a nice little monster to have on his side of the field, and its protection should anything go wrong, which it can't because Bakura has no back row and no cards in hand. So there you go. Yes, Bonz, technically, could have won this duel. However, with all that in mind, in Bakura's defense, prior to him activating Spiritualistic Medium and dumping his entire hand into the grave, seeing that Bonz now has 2 monsters on his side of the field, he might have been able to use one of those cards in his hand before using it, because at the end of the day, he only needed to discard 1 card to be strong enough to attack over Bonz' fusion monster. So it all depends on what his other cards were. Were they bricks in his hand? In which case, his fate was sealed. Did he have more monsters? Because it did seem like he was toying with Bonz, wanted the duel to last as long as possible. So that could be the case. It's hard to say. But yeah, with that all wrapped up, it's time to move to Bakura's turn. And the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets the field spell Ectoplasma. He activates it. Now, both players contribute up to 2 monsters per turn with different types. Half of the tributed monster's attack is dealt as damage to the opponent. Bakura activates its effect by declaring Fiend. He tributes his only Fiend monster on the field, the Earl of Demise. 1,000 damage is dealt to Bonz, dropping his life points down to 0. Bakura wins the duel. Bonz and his companions are killed. It's a shame this duel's so short, but it is a fun yet spooky duel for the season. It's pretty cool, and I was shocked to find out that, yeah, Bonz could have won this duel. But again, it all depends on what those mysterious cards were in Bakura's hand. Since we don't know, I don't know. Want to learn more about Bakura's iconic Destiny board cards? I have a video right here. Or do you want to see me actually try to win with these cards in Master Duel's ranked mode? It's really hard. I'm really trying, but I'm trying to, all right? Check it out if you want to. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you later.